Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Let's Talk. I'm Greg.
I'm Thomas.
Ooh, and I'm Josie. Hello.
Yeah, Josie's new, y'all. Say hello to Josie.
No, that's me.
Josie was one of our guests on the student loan debt episode of season 1. Check that out. It'll be in the description below. Josie, how does it feel to be a co-host on Let's Talk?
I'm really ready. I can't tell you how passionate I am about politics in like the most masochistic way possible. I just love to make myself feel terrible with the state of the world. So I'm ready.
Well, I'm so glad you're here. We're so happy. So while we were gone, a lot of stuff has happened. And let's go ahead and start with the overturning of Roe v. Wade. The Supreme Court on June 24th, 2022 decided fuck those with uteruses and overturned a 50-year precedent. And while, people are blaming Republicans, Democrats also own responsibility for it, not codifying it after the decision of Roe v. Wade in 1973 or 4. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and start with the person who has a uterus. Josie.
That's me.
Yeah, that's you.
Oh my gosh.
Tell us your thoughts.
Well, for those of you who don't know, which is probably all of you, I am a disabled human being with a uterus, and the overturning of Roe v. Wade is an affront to my medical need to have access to abortions, because my disability is one in which if I were to get pregnant, it would be a shit show, and I mean shit show. I would be bedridden, I would be stressed, the chances of miscarriage are high, the chances of deformities are high. So, I don't really want to be pregnant, let alone the fact that I think pregnancy is kind of gross, but
yeah, fucking kids.
I don't have the desire to be fat. In that way, I'll be fat in a regular way for sure, but in a misbalanced,
kind of nice sometimes.
I mean, it's unbalanced. Like you're protruding towards the front. Anyways, I don't feel like it. Don't feel like, no. If I'm gonna do it through cheesecake, not through pregnancy.
Amen to that.
So it is quite egregious. And I say that not just as a disabled person. If I was not disabled, I still would not want to be pregnant, like I said. So I still need access to abortions.
Because it's what? Your choice.
And it's my body. I get to decide what I do with my body.
Imagine that. And not in the anti-vaxxer way either. Thomas. Well, before I go to you, Thomas, also shouting out to the trans and non-binary community. This also affects them too, because not just women have uteruses. Imagine that. But Thomas, go ahead and give me your thoughts too.
Well, it's always been a healthcare issue. It's always been, no matter what right-wing dogma or religious dogma or whatever you want to call it, it's always been a healthcare issue. It always has. So I guess unfortunately this country still doesn't value healthcare as a right, so it kind of goes in hand with the rhetoric that we're getting from people here. But it's I've always viewed it's always been a healthcare issue. So it's a case of, do you value people's health and people's rights to health? So
yeah, and what's also really scary is that Justice Clarence Thomas argued that since there wasn't a long-term history of protecting abortion in this country, or the use of language or rhetoric when talking about abortion, it wasn't relevant to the Constitution. Yeah. Well, Black people weren't part of the Constitution. In fact, they were considered 3/5 a person. Also, if that's the case, then racism wasn't something that, was something that was protected, or I mean, like, not saying that racism, but like people who are affected by racism weren't protected. There wasn't a long history of that either. So
There was
this,
no history of police officers at the beginning of the United States, so they're not protected by the Constitution either.
but they have qualified immunity. Imagine that.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for bringing that up. But yeah, what's very scary is that there goes gay marriage, there goes interracial marriage, there goes
Right to privacy in
right
general.
to privacy. There goes the right to vote, even for some people, because it wasn't until 1968 that everyone, I say that loosely, has the right to vote.
Mm-hmm.
So, girl, we in trouble.
Amen.
I open it to anyone who else wants to add. Go ahead.
I think it comes back to this. The whole thing's made up anyway. The whole basis of the argument's made up on a time and era that is long gone.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the issue stands is, you know, particularly with the Constitution, is that, you know, the way they view it is it's an historical document, and therefore that's precedent. Not and they're not seeing it, you know, and that's the argument. The argument is, well, some people view it as a living document, some people see it as a, you know, this is it and that's it forever.
Well, like the Bible, they also pick and choose what they
Yes,
want to.
that's what I'm saying. Like,
know.
exceptions can be made, but you have particular people in power who have certain views, and they will go down the road that suits their picking. You know, it's not. This isn't some sort of grandstand of like protecting the Constitution or protecting. It's all made up. The whole thing, the idea and the values that go with it that they're suggesting are made up. So.
Yep.
All I can say, folks, to close this off is that stay mad, stay marching, and if you don't have a uterus, you don't have an opinion. All right,
Amen.
let's move on. So, you know who, also known as former President Trump, his home was raided. Mar-a-Lago was raided. He was raided, and they discovered so many documents that he claims were just like overdue library books. I don't remember going into the White House and being like, mine. I don't recall a former president being able to do that. Thomas, do you remember that happening?
I think this is no, I don't. This is unprecedented, and the mere fact that the FBI were even willing to do this to an ex-president of the United States is look, I'm no fan of the FBI, so, but this is pretty damning. Like, this is like really
Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioning you're not a fan of the FBI. Apparently, according to Marjorie Taylor Greene, she's not a fan of the FBI either. And according to her, we need to dissolve it, which
it's one of the most base takes I've ever seen.
Yeah.
The worst people.
So yeah, the report goes on basically saying, or he goes ahead and says, my beautiful home Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach, Florida is currently under siege. And raided and occupied by a large group of FBI agents. Really, fool? Really? You're going to play victim? Josie, please give me your thoughts on this pathetic loser.
I think people need to consider the fact that the FBI and the DOJ and all of the other people that could hold Trump accountable for all of his actions before, during, and after his presidency have done very little. So the fact that the FBI has gone into his home to raid it, to look for these documents, to retrieve them, means that he's in deep shit. He is in trouble. I mean, as of today, not much has been heard from former President Trump. He went to DC, and there he is, probably in prison at the moment.
No, unfortunately, he's not in prison because, a civil war would break out if he was. And even if he was detained, like, he would find some way of getting out of that. But Thomas, do you think they're going to subpoena him?
Well, I think because you've seen the stuff about the special master, right? That
Fill us in on the special master, because I'm not.
so this is a Trump appointee, and supposable precedent is that you can petition for the documents to be reviewed by a special master if you feel that there is or like, I don't know if it's bias or whether you feel that this will be tried unfairly, or the Trump team can, and that's what it's done. And it's very, and the special master just happens to be a Trump appointed judge. So the whole thing.
Interesting. So I don't recall being able to have my friends look over evidence of stuff that like like if I'm ever like charged with a crime, I apparently now I can just have a friend look over evidence for me. Interesting. Look, for me, this just shows that, one, what he did is very serious. Like, don't get me wrong, January 6th is very important, but we all know Democrats are using this as a distraction to actually take care of real problems such as healthcare, education, infrastructure, etc. We're going to talk about later that Mississippi has no fucking water. But it's still very important, and we need to hold this former president for one term, twice impeached president, I may add, accountable, because he can't get away with this, because it's very scary no matter who's in power. The Democrats or Republicans or whoever may be in power later. It's very scary. But Josie, any more thoughts on this?
I love it. I'm into it. And I'm also into MTG's, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Yep.
Yeah.
MTG's idea to abolish FBI. Great. MTG. You're right for once, baby girl. Welcome to the team. We don't back the blue here.
The worst person I know has some of the best takes.
I know. It's scary because, like, if only we can get ICE involved with this, and we can get both FBI and ICE dissolved.
Well, and it just goes to show how cult-like their behavior is, right? Like, they're all about the police one day, but as soon as it doesn't go their way, they're not into it anymore.
Yeah.
It's not Burger King, honey.
It's ACAB the next day,
Literally, it's not Burger King. You can't have it your way. And yeah, I'm sorry, your nepotism and privilege does not apply here. But let's go ahead and move on to Mississippi not having any fucking water. So we all know that Flint, Michigan has been without water since 2014. But let's add another city in America that has no fucking water. Jackson, Mississippi. Jackson, Mississippi is going through a water crisis. They have absolutely no clean drinking water. In fact, tens of thousands of Jackson residents remain without clean water. And this has been an ongoing situation. And, some are even claiming it that, it has its roots to racism, and they're not wrong, because the majority of people who live in Jackson, Mississippi, are Black. And earlier today, Thomas made a very good point. Go ahead and make it, please.
Oh no.
The governor, what did the governor do?
Oh yes. So the governor of Mississippi, I can't remember the name of the event, but he was at an event basically saying how nice it is to be in this particular city that he's doing the event in. And then he made a remark saying, "I'm just glad I'm not in Jackson." Like, he just made a remark saying, "I thank God I'm not there."
So Josie, how do you feel about a governor of a state that is responsible for its people and providing clean water, talking about its own people like that? How does that make you feel?
Well, here's the thing. I live in California. I'm a coastal elite. Ride or die, baby. I'm in it for the long haul with the prices. And this is why, because Jackson, Mississippi is without water because there was a flood and their water treatment facility failed. After decades and decades and decades of a lack of investment in their infrastructure. Why?
Yeah.
Because it is not seen as a great place to live. The white flight or the non-existence, the institutional racism is there, right? They don't want to invest in black neighborhoods. And they decided not to do so for so long that it became a real issue. And now these people are suffering a real humanitarian crisis. They do not have water. So because of that, I'm going to go ahead and stay in my blue little state and fight for the rights of other people from over here. And these governors keep doing shit like this. I mean, Rob DeSantis and this Vineyard situation that went down. I mean, they keep trying to be funny, trying to be quippy, trying to be whatever. But in reality, people's lives are at stake, and it's not fucking funny.
It's not. What's very dangerous about this is that, Flint, Michigan hasn't been without water since 2014. I'm always going to keep saying that. But yeah, well, I don't know what else has happened. The remnants of Katrina still exist, and that was 17 years ago. And I hate saying that because 2005 was 17 years ago.
Oh gosh, yeah.
But Thomas, do you think, knowing that these issues haven't been fixed, we have 17 years since 2005, we have 8 years since 2014, do you think this is going to be fixed?
No, I don't. I don't see it because these states, a lot of these states, they use states' rights as a way to block federal oversight and federal involvement. And the only way this is going to get fixed in the current political landscape is for the federal government to step in. But a lot of these states refuse federal aid or federal money in order for it to get involved and to get things fixed. In some cases, some of these states, they take federal aid and they misappropriate it to other things. They misuse it and don't put it to where it's meant to go.
Yeah.
Because the political landscape of these states is so unhinged and so deeply broken that it's just not. I mean, you saw it with Texas when they had that freeze, and that's a direct result of
and these are red states, I may add, red states, Republican states.
Yeah.
So they don't care if you're a white voter and you're living in these areas alongside, Black people. They don't care about you. So why do these people still elect them? Like literally, the governor of Mississippi joked about not being in Jacksonville. That's your governor, and yet you still vote for him?
Well, the problem is most of these places are gerrymandered to the hills, which means that they're kept in power by these gerrymandered districts. And the problem, again, the other issue is that a lot of these people are one-issue voters. So a lot of people will continue to vote for someone like him because it could just be one issue, and clean drinking water is not one of them.
Yeah,
which is just.
Imagine that. Imagine clean drinking water not being a priority. I'm gonna say that while I drink a sip of water.
Yeah.
Because shit. All right. Let's move on.
Yeah.
The Queen of England died on September 8th, 2022.
Yeah.
And after 70 years on the throne, she is finally dead. She died at 96 at Balmoral. And Thomas, hi, you're British.
Yeah, I am.
Go ahead and tell us how you feel.
Well, from anyone that knows me, I'm a staunch anti-monarchist. I'm a Republican and not in the American way. So
I was gonna say, excuse me.
Let's be clear.
The UK was very unhinged when I was there. It was deeply unhinged, and I grew up there and spent majority of my life there. So, but it was wow.
Like,
But
did
it's a
pubs
good word.
really like stop? Like, I've been seeing a lot of videos of like pubs just stopping and staring at the TV.
Oh well, I mean, this is personal, but like, it's so like my family's been affected by this as well, and so what's been happening is because obviously the funeral date's been set. I have to say it as well. King Charles
King Charles.
Boo!
declared what's called a bank holiday in the UK. That's basically a national holiday, or like to basically give people a day off, essentially, and all for the purpose of mourning the Queen and being able to watch the funeral. But what it's also done, the ramifications of this is that they've basically closed essential services on this day. And I've seen horror stories of people's doctor's appointments being cancelled, people's elective surgeries being cancelled. And in some cases, these people's dates have now been pushed forward 5 weeks or 6 weeks into the future.
Or even months.
Even months into the future, they've been waiting. Some of them are serious elective surgeries that are now being pushed like months in advance because they all fell on this particular day. And I think a society that just thinks that this is okay is deeply unhinged. I don't really have any words for it. It's
I do.
Yeah, Josie.
I have lots of words. I am completely appalled that Americans are so invested in this. I mean, I am on TikTok, but only because I love the drama. But I just think it's absolutely, I mean, I'm not sad about it. I mean, I feel bad for her family members. The loss of life is always sad, no matter how old.
Yeah.
But also, she continued to pursue colonization during her entire reign.
Yeah, it's called the Commonwealth.
Yes, people like Jamaica are still under whatever rule. I don't know what the ins and outs of that are, Thomas, because I don't give a fuck about the monarchy, as we've established. But I just think it's funny because, and maybe this is as the double colonized person, as an American, no offense, I've always said fuck the British because, America, freedom, whatever. And I've, as a Mexican, I always said, well, fuck the Spanish because, freedom, whatever. So I don't understand. They also just take taxpayer money for no reason to look cute, but then they're killing Princess Diana's. And
so you bring up Diana, and this is where here's how I feel about the monarchy. One, fuck the monarchy, but also I really love the show The Crown. And The Crown's gonna get so good this season, bitch. Like, oh my God.
Who's gonna play Meghan Markle,
No, unfortunately, see, here's what The Crown should do. They should do a spin-off series where Meghan Markle and Prince Harry overthrow the monarchy, and that would be great. But no, but in all seriousness, like, it's very sad that both the American public and the British public are so like invested in this family. I mean, they are the fancy version of the Kardashians. So like, of course.
I would argue that at least the Kardashians in some ways earned their spot in fame.
Yeah, because and what's really sad, because Thomas brought up earlier when we were hanging out that 20%?
Yeah, so I mean, I expect this from the British public because, the unfortunate reality is that of Britishness and everything to do with the country and its self-identity revolves around the monarchy still. I mean, it's even in our national anthem. So that's the reality, and so I come from a perspective that isn't necessarily the main consensus on this topic. About 22% or 23% of British people want to abolish the monarchy.
I just say, this family has existed since the 900s. It's gonna be really hard to dismantle it. I can only see
I don't
Like,
know. Prince Charles is egregious enough, or King
well, look at
Charles.
other royal families that exist still, like
Yeah.
even social democracy countries like Denmark and the Netherlands, they have royal families, but it's more like you're a royal family member, but you're a servant. And I feel that, the only way you get rid of the British monarchy if you turn it that way.
Well,
But go
they
ahead.
kind of are that way, aren't they? Like they claim to be these civic servants. They
But
claim
they're
to be
not
for
like
the
like
people.
the other royal families play much more. They're more involved in the government,
Mm.
and they have to take positions. But Thomas, you can go ahead and close us off what you're about to say.
Well, I was going to say that the main issue is that I honestly think this forced mourning that we're seeing right now. I think that they're slightly overplaying their hand, and you can see it in the media because the media is completely blacking out anti-monarchist protests. Protesters are actually getting arrested in United Kingdom for anti-monarchist protests and slogans and what which says a lot about the democracy in the United Kingdom.
Yeah, like that being said, like that's sad.
But the reality is, they're in a landscape that I don't think they've necessarily been in, and they're probably expecting this because a lot of people have been saying, "Will the monarchy survive after Queen Elizabeth?" And I think that's been going on for a long time, but way before she died. So they're playing the hand a little bit, especially in a time of crisis when the UK is going through a gas crisis with heating bills, and people just cannot afford to keep the heat on at a time when astronomical amounts of wealth are being poured into a funeral for a person that never ever had to live through these issues.
Yeah, so all I could say is fuck the monarchy. Long live King Charles. Anyway, so each episode we're going to end on a lighter note. And for this week, we are going to talk about if this person is an asshole or not. I just love the am I the asshole stories, and I found this good one on Reddit, so let's go ahead and read it. I'm 16 and openly gay. My stepmom herself is cool and she's not homophobic at all, and I love her. However, she comes from a country known for their poor treatment of LGBTQ people. She wants us to visit her country and family for Christmas for 2 weeks. When brought up the idea, I told her that I'm not comfortable coming, but I'm also not saying that they shouldn't go. We should plan something different for me, like staying with my uncle or grandparents, which I'm happy to do. She suggested that I'm overreacting and I'll be safe there, since there's lots of gay people living there. I'm sure that's true. She has since been offended that I don't want to visit and meet her family and says she's disappointed in me that I won't do it for her. But in reality, even if nothing happens, I will always fear what could happen. So it will be stressful. She also says that her family would be hurt as well if I don't go. They'll perceive it as me not considering them worthy to visit, which is not the case, and she'll be embarrassed. My dad agrees with me that I shouldn't go if I don't want to. I'm wondering if I may be the asshole for thinking about myself without giving much thought of how it makes my stepmom feel. Am I the asshole? Absolutely fucking not. You are not the asshole, honey. I'm sorry, but Josie, Thomas, give me your thoughts. Oh, poor baby.
You're so funny because I have I'm not so nice. I think it depends on the country.
Really?
Yeah, I think it does. Because I mean, some would say I don't want to go to Alabama because they're anti-gay, right?
I wouldn't step foot in Alabama, so
I've been to Alabama and I'm fine. But anyways, it's like extremes, right? I wouldn't go to Nigeria and be openly gay. I wouldn't go to
Nigeria.
Russia and be openly gay because there's some you know, pretty deep consequences. So I think it depends. But also, as a trauma-informed human being, you should not do what you don't want to fucking do.
Yeah, Thomas, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree. It's the same with well, more personal related. It's the same with religion as well, like
Yeah.
religious households and people who've stepped away. So it's anything that makes you feel deeply uncomfortable,
Yeah.
why would you do that to yourself?
Like, okay, and what's also like in the post, you know, this person says that, you know, she'll be very disappointed in me, or she's disappointed in me, and like her family will feel hurt. Like, you're that manipulative to
There's
make
worse
someone feel
things than your parents being disappointed in you.
bad.
Let me tell you.
Exactly. Like, you shouldn't feel bad. And that being said, you're not the asshole, you know.
Your stepmom is definitely the asshole.
Yeah, your stepmom's definitely the asshole, 100%. And kudos to the dad for agreeing
Yes.
with the child. This is a child, 16.
Yep.
This is a child. And you're forcing your LGBTQIA plus child to go to a country where they're not welcomed and could get killed. So, or stepchild, I should say. But yeah, you're not the asshole, honey. All right. Well, that being said, thank you for watching another episode of Let's Talk. I'm Greg.
I'm Thomas.
And I'm Josie.
And we will see you next week. All the fun stuff is in the description. Take a look. And yeah, bye-bye.
Bye.
See you in a bit.